true confession. So when I was trying to start the fire, like I told you a couple days ago, without much success, when I was using this striker, my sweet husband came over and gave me the tip I shared with you today about holding it down further so that you have more control and closer to your tinder. Big, huge difference. But you can see I have a Band-Aid on today, and that's because if you sit and do that repetitive motion for 15 to 20 minutes, you're gonna end up with a really big blister. So when you're first starting out using a striker and practicing, hopefully you will be much quicker than I was, but the instruction tips that I shared with you will really help that. You might want to put a Band-Aid on right there so that you can avoid, or a pair of gloves depending on how cold it is, so that you can avoid having the blister. So I like to keep it real, so that's the true story. Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you how to build a fire. So this is a really important skill to have in your preparedness set or as modern homesteading. And our home is exclusively heated with wood heat, so we build a fire pretty much every day. But I wanted to show you how to build a fire outside because, one, it's really fun to cook outside and have an outdoor fire. And two, if you're in a preparedness situation or emergency situation, survival type thing where you need to know how to build a fire, it's probably going to be outside. So first things first, we have our fire pit here, so that's for fire safety. So we just went through a really big drought. The burn ban was lifted today, yay, so I can actually film this video for you. So we want to have our fire in a contained area so it doesn't spread to where we don't want it to spread. It's safer, and two, it's really nice if you have, that's why you'll see most fire pits are in a pit or have rocks around them in a ring. One is to keep the fire contained, and then the other reason is it acts as a barrier. So with the wind, if it's really windy out, one, when you're building your fire and it's small, you're going to blow the flames out, and then if it's really windy, it's going to take those flames and blow them around, and we don't want erratic flames. It's a little bit breezy today, but not too bad. So first things first, when you're building a fire, you need to have tinder. It's your very first thing. It's what's going to be your dry source that's going to catch and your fire is going to build from. So here, we just keep a bag of this as our fire safety. We keep it in our camper and with our preparedness stuff, and it is just little, really fine pieces of sawdust. So I'll show you up close here. So you can see it's just really fine curled pieces of wood shavings. So I like to make a nest. So we just take it and kind of spread it out where we're going to build our fire here and make a little nest with that. And I put some down in the nest where we're going to be building a fire, and then I have some that's sitting off on the side, so as soon as we get that first spark and flame, we're going to add that on top to feed it. So I have some on the side, and then some in our main nest here. So just kind of spread that out. It's always important when you're building fire to have it spread out, because the bigger surface area you have of fuel to catch fire, the easier it's going to be to catch or start your fire. Now the next thing that I have is I just have a little plastic bag, and this is to keep it dry because obviously dry things are going to light easier, is dryer lint. So like today when it's gorgeously sunny out, I actually have a load of clothes drying on the line over here. But in the winter months when I use my dryer, you can tell this is my dryer lint. So this is really great way to start a fire, and I like to take it off. My husband's a sawyer, so there's bits of sawdust there that's going to help light great. And you don't want it really compacted, so you want it light and airy like this. So it's best when it's just coming straight out of the dryer like this. So we're just going to put this all over here, because like I said, the more you have of a surface area, the more chances you have of that spark landing and igniting. Now the next thing that I want is very important to have is to already have your next fuel source that's going to go on top. And so this is really dry kindling that I've just kind of broken into smaller pieces. If you were out in the wild and survival, you would want to find twigs. You want a small fuel source to go on next. So we're going to build from really tiny fuel source like the shavings on up to our bigger pieces of wood. So I like to have these all ready to go. You want your supplies ready to go. So as soon as your fire is lit, you've got everything to add to it. Or out in a survival situation and you weren't prepared and you didn't have some shavings or lint or that kind of a thing, your next best bet would probably be really dry moss or really dry dead grass. You know, grass fires go like crazy. So the key here though is dry. So if you were in, like say, a pair of blue jeans and you had a knife, you could even, your pocket lint. I've know people say to take and scrape part of the jean off, which is essentially what this is part of our clothes. Now, I'm going to use a fire starter today because I really like to do things the old-fashioned way, and with lighters and lighter fluid and matches, is that's a source that you're going to be buying from the store. And it's great to have them because it actually can be kind of difficult if you've never started a fire with a magnesium fire starter before to start one. So always have a couple different methods, have some backup methods of fire starting. And I have to tell you, I was working on this the other day, right before a big rainstorm came in. I was going to film this, and I spent like 15 minutes trying to get this magnesium to light the flame, and I wasn't doing it quite right. So I want you to practice your skills, because if you're in a preparedness situation, 15 minutes, if someone has hypothermia, is going to be too long to get your fire started. So make sure that you practice these skills before you actually have need of them. So when you're going to use the fire starter, and this is the flint type method, you want to put your magnesium stick here right down on top of your fuel source. So you kind of want it right in there, because as we go like this, you're going to push down really hard and strike. You want all of your sparks to go down onto the flint where they still have a lot of heat and before they can burn out. So you're going to want to get really down and close there, so to speak. And we keep this threaded together just to keep so it doesn't get separated and lost, because without the striker, it's not much use. But I find when I'm trying to strike with it that the cord kind of inhibits my movement, so I untie it while I'm using it and then tie it back up when you're storing it. So you want to hold this striker, so if you've never seen one, I'll get up close to you want to hold it really steady, so don't hold it back here on the handle part. Hold it up here like this. So you're going to have a much better grip and control. There we go. So she is started. So once that starts to go, you want to immediately take these small pieces and start putting them in a teepee fashion. You don't want to just dump them on, because we need oxygen for this to burn. So we're going to add a little bit of that, and it gets hot. And then we're going to go ahead and add this fuel back on top to keep that going. And that's lightweight enough. It's okay if we put it right on top. You can see the wind is moving it this way, so you got to watch out for the way the wind's blowing, because that's going to move your flame. The oxygen is what feeds your fire and gets it to going, so you got to always pay attention to the way the wind is burning. And that's going good. And these were some dry pieces I had the other day. They're a little bit big, so I'm just going to break those off in half, and we're going to start to feed that. So the reason is you always go in a teepee fashion like this, and it's not just all laying one way, is, as I said, the oxygen is what feeds your fire. And so the more surface area that you have, instead of it all laying down flat like a blanket, it's going to just dampen it out, is that there's more surface area for it to catch and to burn. And you need to have the airflow through there, like I said, to keep things going. So I'm going to let that set like that in that fashion for a minute. So now, my friends, I hope that my microphone is picking this up. You have a rip-roaring hot fire. And I'm not going to let this get too big, because I just built it for the purposes of showing you how to build a fire, and I don't want to waste all my fuel for this big fire. But we never ever want to waste a fire. And I tell you what, my favorite thing in the world is roasted marshmallows and s'mores. So I'm going to go get my stick, and I'll see you back on the website.